Have you ever felt that nagging sense that there's maybe a deeper truth, an ancient wisdom, kind of waiting to be rediscovered inside you? A path to, freeing yourself from suffering and unlocking this immense inner power.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. We're exploring Eckhart Tolle's really transformative book, The Power of Now.
Right.
It's a guide that promises a shortcut to being, well, truly well-informed about spiritual enlightenment.
And this whole exploration, it really kicked off with Tolle's own uh, startling awakening experience.
Oh,
He talks about waking up one morning, hearing a bird chirping, and it was like he'd never heard before. He experienced it like a precious diamond.
wow.
Yeah, and the dawn light coming through the curtains felt like love itself. Everything just seemed fresh and pristine.
A total shift.
A complete, totally unexpected shift in perception. And the book itself really grew from people coming up to him asking, I want what you have. Can you give it to me?
Right. And what do you say?
His answer was always, you have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise.
That sets the stage perfectly. So our mission today is really to unpack the core concepts from this guide. We're going to focus on the, let's say, surprising facts and the practical insights without getting bogged down in jargon.
Right. Keep it accessible.
Exactly. We're here to understand how to maybe navigate this mind-made suffering and, truly live in the present moment.
Let's do it.
Okay, so if the path to freedom is within us, then maybe the first step is realizing we might be trapped by something we just assume is us. The book kicks off with this really radical idea: you are not your mind. What does that actually mean? And why is that seen as the greatest obstacle to enlightenment?
Well, what's fascinating is how Tolle reframes enlightenment itself. It's not some superhuman accomplishment.
Okay.
Instead, he says it's simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. He uses that parable, the beggar sitting on a box for like 30 years.
Yeah, I remember that.
Completely unaware it was filled with gold. And that treasure within is the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it. It's just waiting there.
And the book ties suffering into this whole illusion, doesn't it? It connects directly to the Buddha's definition of enlightenment as the end of suffering. How does that work?
Yeah, the illusion of separateness is really the key here. Our inability to feel our inherent connection to everything else, well, that gives rise to fear and conflict.
Internally and externally.
Both, yeah. Within ourselves and with the world around us. Tolle puts it very clearly. Identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that blocks all true relationship.
So it's like we're interacting with our idea of things, not the things themselves.
Exactly. We're stuck behind the screen, blocking any genuine connection.
Okay, this next idea really challenges, how we think about thinking itself. The book suggests thinking has become a disease, like cells multiplying out of control.
Right.
And it claims it's not just that we use our minds wrongly, but that it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly. You usually don't use it at all. It uses you. Can you unpack that? It sounds kind of unsettling.
It is unsettling, but it's a crucial point. It's a huge shift in perspective. The book poses this really pivotal question. Can you be free of your mind whenever you want to? Have you found the off button?
Good question.
And if you haven't found that off button, then, well, the mind is using you. You're unconsciously identified with it, so you don't even know that you are its slave.
Like being possessed without realizing it.
Pretty much, yeah. Taking the possessing entity to be yourself.
So, okay, if our minds are potentially using us, how do we even begin to free ourselves? What's the practical step here?
The main practice he introduces is watching the thinker.
Watching the thinker.
Yeah, it means listening to those involuntary voices, the monologues running in your head, and becoming the witnessing presence behind them.
So it's not like zoning out.
No, not at all. In fact, Tolle says you become much more alert, more awake than when you're lost in thought. This practice creates gaps in the stream of mind, and that allows the light of your own consciousness to get stronger.
Is it just about noticing the chatter? Or is there more to it? Like, if my mind's replaying some difficult conversation, how do I watch that effectively without getting sucked back in?
That's a great question. For someone really caught up in that mental noise, what's the first tangible step?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it starts simply by just noticing. Don't judge the thoughts. Don't even try to stop them. Just observe them. like they're clouds passing by.
Okay.
So when you notice your mind replaying that tricky conversation, instead of getting caught up in the story again or the emotions,
Right.
just observe that you are thinking about it. Notice the mental energy. That very act of stepping back, of observing, it creates a space, a little gap between you, the observer, and the thought itself.
That's watching the thinker.
That's it.
But the idea that thinking is essential in order to survive is so deeply ingrained. How does the book suggest we use our mind differently instead of just letting it run wild?
Yeah, it clarifies that enlightenment means rising above thought, not falling back to a level below thought, like some pre-rational state.
Okay, so it's not becoming mindless.
No, not at all. The mind is a valuable tool, absolutely. But it's meant for practical things, specific tasks, planning, solving actual problems.
Mm-hmm.
Toll estimates, though, that 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless, but because of its dysfunctional and often negative nature, much of it is also harmful.
Wow, 80 to 90%.
Yeah. And he points out that true creativity, for artists, scientists like Einstein, it doesn't come from just churning thoughts over and over. It comes from a place of no mind, from inner stillness, a space beyond that constant mental chatter.
Which connects to that idea of a deeper intelligence, right?
Right.
Like the complexity in a single DNA cell, something far beyond our conscious minds. It's about tapping into that, beyond the noise.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've talked about the mind. But what about emotions? Those strong feelings that can just sweep us away. Tolle argues they're not separate from thoughts, saying emotion. The body's reaction to your mind. How does that connection change how we see our feelings?
Well, emotion is the body's reaction to your mind, or maybe a reflection of your mind in the body.
Can you give an example?
Sure, like an attack thought or a hostile thought, it creates anger in the body, right? Prepares you to fight. Or a thought about being threatened, physically or emotionally, causes the body to contract. That's fear.
Okay.
And here's a crucial point. If there's a conflict between what you think you're thinking on the surface and a deeper emotion you're feeling, the book says the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth.
The truth of your state of mind at that moment.
Exactly. The relative truth, yes. Your body's basically telling you what your mind is really up to, even if you're not consciously tuned into it.
So observing emotions is just as important as observing thoughts then. How do we do that without getting completely overwhelmed by them?
The advice is to focus your attention on the inner energy field of the body. Feel the emotion directly as energy.
Feel it in the body.
Yes. You allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. Same way you'd observe a thought. The goal is to become the watcher, the observing presence. You bring what's unconscious into the light of consciousness.
So you're not fighting it or feeding it.
Exactly. You're just noticing, oh, there's anger, there's sadness, without getting lost in the story behind it.
Okay. And if thoughts create these reactions, what about those deeper, more persistent aches we carry? Sometimes for years. Tolle has a specific term for that cumulative emotional stuff. The pain body. What is that?
This is a really revolutionary insight, I think. The pain body isn't just a feeling. He describes it as a residue of pain that lives on in you.
A residue.
Yeah, it merges with pain from your past, including stuff from childhood. It's described almost like an energetic entity that wants to survive.
Wants to survive?
It can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it, to basically become it and live through you. It needs to get its food through you, and it feeds on experiences that match its own energy.
Like what?
Things like anger, destructiveness, hatred, grief, emotional drama, violence, and even illness. But here's the interesting part. It cannot feed on joy.
It can't feed on joy. So if this deep pain is ultimately mind-made, an illusion, how do we actually dissolve this pain body?
Well, you have to realize that the pain body is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness.
Afraid of awareness.
Exactly. The moment you observe it, feel its energy field within you and bring your attention fully into it, the identification is broken. Suddenly, a higher dimension of consciousness has come in. I call it presence.
You become the witness.
You become the witness, and it can no longer use you by pretending to be you. It can't replenish itself. It basically starves in the light of your awareness.
The book gets into a really specific, fascinating example for women. Can you explain this idea of the collective female pain body and how menstruation could become an opportunity for the most powerful spiritual practice?
Yes, Tolle suggests that every woman carries not just her personal pain body, but also a share in the collective female pain body. This is the accumulated pain from centuries of, well, Male subjugation, slavery, exploitation, violence, childbirth pain, all of it.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. And this collective pain can awaken particularly strongly just before the menstrual flow begins.
Okay, so what's the practice then?
The practice is to be very alert and inhabit your body as fully as possible during that time. To catch the very first sign of it trying to take over, maybe it's irritation, anger, depression,
Yeah.
a physical symptom.
No.
And then you hold the knowing. You shine the spotlight of your attention right onto that feeling, that energy, without judging it or reacting, just pure awareness. And through that presence, it can be transmuted into radiant consciousness.
So it transforms menstruation into something sacred.
Exactly. A sacred time. And he also mentions, importantly, that a conscious male partner can really support this by just holding the space of intense presence, not reacting if the pain body temporarily takes over his partner.
That's powerful. Okay, shifting slightly, understanding how the mind creates problems also helps with fear, right? Tolle differentiates between practical caution and what he calls psychological fear. What's the key difference?
Practical caution is just common sense, really. You don't stick your hand in a fire because you know that you'll get burned. You don't need fear for that. It's just intelligence operating.
Right.
Psychological fear, though, is completely divorced from any concrete and true immediate danger. It's almost always of something that might happen, not of something that is happening now.
So it's future-based.
Entirely. It creates what he calls an anxiety gap. Because your mind is in the future, constantly projecting, worrying about what ifs.
The book actually says we cannot cope with the future, which seems counterintuitive. Don't we need to plan? Isn't that coping?
Well, he calls psychological time this constant identification with the past and compulsive projection into the future a mental disease.
A disease, that's wrong.
It is, and he gives that chilling example of ideologies like communism or National Socialism, where a belief in a future heaven creates a present hell. Millions murdered in the present for the sake of some future idea.
That really shows the danger of living mentally in the future.
It starkly demonstrates how trying to cope with the future in that psychological sense can lead to just profound dysfunction and suffering. Our minds create the illusion we can cope with an imagined future, but the reality is all we ever truly have is this moment. Yeah, past and future. Your mind, he says, unconsciously loves problems because they give you an identity of sorts. I'm someone with this problem. But if you focus your attention totally on the also, this very second, can you actually have a problem? Think about a real life or death emergency. In that instant, the mind didn't have time to fool around and make it into a problem. It stopped, and something infinitely more powerful took over.
Instinct, the presence.
Exactly. That's the power of the now in action. Completely problem-free in that moment. Just pure response to the situation.
And what stands out to you about the joy of being that Tolle describes? It sounds so accessible.
I think the really powerful insight is that this joy isn't a result of getting what you want or having perfect circumstances.
Right, not conditional happiness.
Exactly. It's a state of being you can access right now, regardless of what you're doing. The test for being free of psychological time is joy, ease, and lightness in what I am doing.
So it's about the how, not the what.
Precisely. The book stresses it doesn't necessarily mean changing what you do, but transforming how you do it. The second your attention fully turns to the world, now you feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. And from that place, you can still pursue goals, but with a playful, joyous energy, not driven by fear, anger, discontent, or the need to become someone.
Okay, let's talk about relationships. The book hits us with another provocative statement. Relationships are not here to make you happy or fulfilled. That goes against everything we're told. So what are they for, then?
It's definitely a surprising reframe. He states they are here to make you conscious instead of happy.
To make you conscious.
Yes. And if we can accept that, really accept it, then the relationship will offer you salvation, meaning a path to awakening. True love, he explains, has no opposite because it arises from beyond the mind. It's not part of that typical pleasure-pain cycle we often see in romance, which tends to be rooted in unconscious needs and expectations.
And if we are identified with our minds, then relationships just become minds interacting with each other, not human beings communicating, being in communion, which, as we've seen, leads straight to conflict. How do we break that cycle?
The key is being in touch with your inner body. That creates a clear space of no mind within which the relationship can flower.
So it's about being present with the other person.
Present with them and present with yourself, your own inner state. Allowing the truth, the raw emotion, the energy you feel to just be there without reacting based on mental interpretations or past grievances. When you're truly present, you connect with the being of the other person, not just their mental constructs or your projections onto them.
The book also has some really interesting things to say about gender and enlightenment. It suggests women are closer to enlightenment and can act as a bridge between the manifested world and the unmanifested. That's quite unique.
Yeah, it is. He explains that women are often naturally closer to being, mainly because it tends to be easier for them to feel and be in her body.
More embodied.
Generally, yes. And qualities like surrender, non-judgment, and openness that allows life to be, these are seen as more related to the female principle, receptivity, presence. Conversely, for men, he states, the major obstacle tends to be the thinking mind, which can create a stronger barrier to just being present.
And what about being gay? The book calls it a potential help towards enlightenment, but also includes a warning. How does that work?
Well, he notes that the initial uncertainty about sexuality and then perhaps realizing you're different from the societal norm can force you to disidentify from socially conditioned patterns of thought and behavior.
Because you don't fit the mold.
Exactly. Being an outsider in that way can take you out of unconsciousness almost by force, raising your level of awareness. The warning, though, is crucial. Beware of then forming a new identity based on being gay. That just becomes another trap. Another mind-created identity that pulls you back into unconsciousness.
Interesting. So any strong identification becomes a trap,
Yeah.
which leads to this idea about loving yourself or having a good relationship with yourself. We hear that all the time. But the book says, in Enlightenment, you no longer have the relationship with yourself. What's going on there?
This points to something really deep. The book explains that the very idea of having a relationship with yourself implies a split.
A split?
Yeah, you've split yourself into two, I and myself, subject and object. That mind-created duality is the root cause of all unnecessary complexity, of all problems and conflict in your life.
So Enlightenment heals that split.
Precisely. In Enlightenment, that split is healed. You simply are yourself. Wholly, completely. There's no need to maintain a relationship with yourself because there's no separation. The love isn't something you direct towards a separate self. The love is what you are.
Wow. Okay. You've mentioned the unmanifested a few times. That sounds a bit mysterious. What are these portals into the unmanifested the book talks about?
Well, the present moment is described as the main portal. It's essential for accessing all the others, like the inner body we talked about.
And the unmanifested itself is?
It's the formless, timeless source of everything that exists. It's described as the source of chi, that vital life energy. It's a stillness, but a stillness that's vibrant with life.
Like a dynamic emptiness.
Kind of, yeah. Silence and space are also portals, he calls them, externalizations of inner space and inner silence, which is stillness. The infinitely creative womb of all existence. And he brings in physics here, reminding us how physicists tell us that the solidity of matter is an illusion.
Right, that matter is mostly empty space.
Exactly. Even solid stuff is nearly 99% empty space. It echoes that ancient Buddhist saying, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form.
So if reality is mostly emptiness and silence, what's the practical takeaway from realizing that in our everyday lives? How does that help?
The practical implication is that when you withdraw your attention from physical things and also from mental things, your thoughts, your emotions, you simultaneously become aware of the space of no mind, of pure consciousness, the unmanifested.
You tap into that stillness.
Yes. And experiencing that deep inner stillness, that's the source of real creativity and peace. It's about realizing that the true nature of reality isn't just the surface stuff you perceive with your senses or your mind.
The book even goes into conscious death. How can physical death, which most people fear, be seen as a portal?
It's described as an involuntary portal that opens up briefly at the moment of death. It can offer a glimpse of blissful serenity and deep peace. He references the Tibetan Book of the Dead here, calling it the luminous splendor of the colorless light of emptiness.
But most people miss it.
Apparently, yes. Because of too much residual resistance, too much fear, too much attachment to the life that's ending. But the reassurance is profound. Nothing that is of value, nothing that is real is ever lost. What you truly are, your essence, persists beyond the physical form.
Okay, let's shift towards the end here. Most people are striving for happiness, right? That seems like the goal. But the book says, beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. What's the key difference there? Why is peace maybe more profound?
The difference is absolutely fundamental. Happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive. Inner peace does not.
Ah, so happiness is conditional.
It's conditional, it's fleeting. Peace is unconditional. The book even points out that for many people, really difficult experiences, limitation, failure, loss, illness, or pain, they actually turned out to be their greatest teacher.
How go?
Those things gave them depth, humility, and compassion. So from this higher perspective Tolle describes, conditions themselves are neither positive nor negative. They are as they are. Peace transcends that whole positive-negative game the mind plays. It's incredibly liberating.
And this ties into the meaning of surrender. That word surrender can sound so passive, even fatalistic, like just giving up. How does the book reconcile surrender with actually making efforts to improve things?
Yeah, it's often misunderstood. He uses a great visual analogy. Think of a flashlight that cuts through the fog. The fog is your life situation, all the complexities, the story. The flashlight is your conscious presence, your awareness. And the clear space illuminated by the flashlight is the now.
Right.
Non-surrender, resisting what is, hardens your psychological form, the shell of the ego. That leads to fear, judgment, competition. But in surrender, in accepting this one, now you see very clearly what needs to be done, and you take action, doing one thing at a time and focusing on one thing at a time.
So it's not inaction.
Not at all. It's focused, effective action arising from acceptance, not... The advice is clear. First, separate out this instant and surrender to what is. Accept the reality of this moment right now without mental labels or resistance. Just allow it to be.
Okay, accept the isness of now.
Exactly. Then, from that place of acceptance, you ask yourself, is there anything I can do to change the situation, improve it, or remove myself from it?
Be practical.
Yes. If the answer is yes, then you take appropriate action, but focus only on the one thing that you can do now, not getting overwhelmed by the whole situation.
And if no action is possible right now,
then you use the situation to make you go more deeply into surrender, deeper into being. You use the situation itself as your spiritual practice. It's about accepting what is in this precise moment and then acting wisely if action is possible from that place of inner alignment.
this seems to suggest unhappiness is a choice.
Yeah.
But then the book states, quite clearly, nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain. Nobody chooses insanity. That feels like a contradiction. How can both be true?
It's a really crucial distinction he makes. He clarifies that choice implies consciousness, a high degree of consciousness. Without it, you have no choice.
So unconsciousness means no real choice.
Essentially, yes. He explains that our mind, being conditioned as it is by the past, always seeks to recreate what it knows and is familiar with. Even if it is painful, at least it is familiar.
The devil you know.
Right. He gives the example of someone repeatedly choosing abusive relationships. They aren't consciously choosing pain. Rather, there is not enough presence in you to dissolve the past. The unconscious pattern just keeps running, recreating the familiar pain until enough consciousness is brought to bear on it.
So the pain isn't chosen, but the unconscious pattern perpetuates it.
Until presence breaks the cycle.
Okay, so what happens when we do surrender? When we bring that conscious presence to our suffering and truly let go of resistance?
When you truly surrender, the book says, spiritual energy comes into this world.
Spiritual energy.
Yes. And this energy creates no suffering for yourself, for other humans, or any other life form on the planet. It's also not subject to the law of polarities. It's beyond that usual good, bad, positive, negative cycle that governs so much of our ordinary experience.
It's like a different order of reality manifesting.
That's a good way to put it. A flow of life that simply is without conflict. He again references Jesus. Blessed are the gentle, they shall have the earth for their possession. Surrender brings forth this gentle power.
But what about non-resistance when facing actual violence or aggression? Does surrender mean just letting harm happen, doing nothing?
No, he's very clear. Non-resistance doesn't necessarily mean doing nothing. Not at all. It means that any doing becomes non-reactive.
Non-reactive action.
Exactly. He brings up the deep wisdom underlying the practice of Eastern martial arts. Don't resist the opponent's force. Yield to overcome. It's about acting from a place of stillness and clarity, not blind reaction. The key point is that surrender transforms you first. And because the world is only a reflection, changing your inner state changes how you interact with and perceive external reality.
Like the mirror analogy, attacking the image makes it attack back.
Precisely. If you accept the image, if you are internally at peace, your response to the external situation becomes wise and effective, not just reactive.
Okay, wrapping this up then. The book reminds us that true compassion goes deeper than just fixing problems on the surface, doesn't it? It's about addressing the root cause.
Absolutely. He states quite bluntly, all evils are the effect of unconsciousness. While alleviating suffering on the surface is obviously noble and necessary, he emphasizes that without a profound change in human consciousness, the world's suffering is a bottomless pit.
So the real change starts within.
Yes, true change happens within each of us. By cultivating presence, by letting your peace to flow into whatever you do, you work on both the effect, the suffering, and the cause, unconsciousness, simultaneously. You actually become part of the solution just by changing your state of being.
Wow. We have covered a lot today. A real deep dive into the power of now, from realizing you are not your mind, understanding the pain body, getting the difference between clock time and psychological time,
Transforming relationships, and really embracing this profound power of surrender. It's definitely challenging, but also incredibly liberating stuff.
It really is. And remember,
This whole journey into conscious presence, it isn't about escaping life at all, is it? It's about inhabiting it fully, experiencing that joy of being that can flow into absolutely everything you do, turning the ordinary into something, well, quite extraordinary.
and consider this final thought from the book. Your primary task is not to seek salvation through creating a better world, but to awaken out of identification with form. You are then no longer bound to this world. You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That is how important you are.
That really reframes your purpose, doesn't it? It puts the power right back inside.
It really does.
So after exploring all of this today, the question for you listening is, what will you choose to observe in your own mind, starting right now, to bring just a little more presence, more peace, and maybe more of that underlying joy into your life?